Both Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump seem to think it's business as usual. They think that Israel can bomb and the ceasefire can exist simultaneously. This is what happened after the ceasefires reached in the Gaza and Lebanon wars, both of which established a status quo where one side had to halt all operations and Israel simply carried on. Trump is trying to force Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz and hand over its rich uranium, while Israel continues its massacres against the Lebanese population as a whole. But it won't work. As Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh told the BBC, you can't have an agreement in which Lebanon is specifically named in the scope of the ceasefire and then let your ally conduct a massacre there. Unbelievably, that is also the view of the British, French and the EU foreign policy establishments. Now, there are strong domestic pressures on the Israeli Prime Minister to keep fighting. He was cut out of the deal that Trump got from the Iranians, and there is a domestic backlash at its terms. It's seen as capitulation. He was accused at home of having achieved none of the objectives he set out when his forces attacked Iran 6 weeks ago. Israeli tanks, only a few kilometers from the border, are now facing stiff opposition from Hezbollah, the militia everyone wrote off as smashed after the last encounter. And the same circumstances apply to Netanyahu and the religious Zionist right that applied right through the Gaza genocide. Israel has to be in a permanent state of war. Otherwise, Netanyahu will lose power, and the opportunity of a lifetime to expand Israel's borders will slip from the grasp of the religious Zionists. The deal that Trump got from Iran was indeed a strategic disaster for Trump and Netanyahu. Under its terms, Iran continues to control the Strait of Hormuz, allowing a limited number of ships through during the period of the ceasefire, and it will continue to collect transit fees along with Oman. But that is not all. The price of peace with Iran is a binding pledge not to attack it again, the removal of all sanctions, both primary and secondary, and compensation for war damage. The deal as it stands pulls the rug from under Netanyahu's feet and is a major blow to his authority, which is why he will put up extreme resistance and continue to carry on the war in Lebanon. It now turns out, and Israel is just waking up to this, that every one of the predictions Netanyahu pitched to Trump for over an hour in the Situation Room under the White House on February the 11th proved to be false. That was a meeting that convinced Trump to attack Iran. The Israeli leader said that Iran's ballistic missile program could be destroyed in a few weeks. In fact, Iran continues to fire ballistic missiles in the 6th week of the war. He said that Iran would be so weakened by the airstrikes that it could not choke off the Strait of Hormuz. The reality is that no ship is passing or has passed without Iranian consent. He said the street protests inside Iran would begin again, and with a little help from Mossad and the Iranian Kurds, the Iranian opposition could overthrow the regime. The reality is there hasn't been one defection, either at home or abroad, from the regime. Popular rage against the destruction Iran has endured has breathed new life into the Iranian revolution. It has not sent it packing. For Trump, the personal stakes at home are just as high. His popularity is nosediving, and so is Israel's. The latest poll from Pew Research found that 60% of US adults have an unfavorable view of Israel, up from 53% last year. 59% have little or no confidence in Netanyahu to do the right thing. This means that a Trump that allows himself, and has allowed himself, to be led by the nose by Netanyahu into a war with Iran that fails to topple the regime is not going down well at home. Vice President J.D. Vance, who according to media reports was against the war from the start, will lead talks with Iran in Islamabad over the weekend. They will hinge on whether Trump can be persuaded to bear down on Israel to shut down this failed venture now. But Trump is running out of cards. He tried to play his version of Apocalypse Now with Iran, and it failed. What new cards has Trump left to play? Iran has plenty. The Strait of Hormuz has yet to open, so the pressure on world oil and gas markets that is pushing the price of diesel at the pumps through the roof is still on. The Houthis in Yemen had only just started to enter this conflict when the 2-week ceasefire was announced. Iran's first reaction to the massacre in Lebanon was to bomb a pumping station for Saudi Arabia's critical east-west pipeline, which has allowed millions of barrels of oil to bypass the Strait of Hormuz via the Red Sea. If Trump plunges back into this war, international container traffic from the Suez Canal, down the Red Sea and through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait would certainly become the next front line. Iran's strategy to being attacked for a second time was to widen the geographic scope of this war. They were true to their word. Everyone in the world is feeling the effects of this war. If Trump resumes the campaign in another of his juvenile tantrums, the Gulf states will go from having damage to their oil economies, which is repairable, to destruction that could take years to rebuild. If Iran's oil terminal at Karg Island is destroyed, there's a good chance that all oil terminals in the region will be too. For this Gulf war has distilled all the mistakes of its predecessors. In the world order that is forming in the ashes of American exceptionalism, Trump's inchoate ramblings on Truth Social are increasingly seen as signs of weakness, and China is beginning to react to this. China and Russia did not just abstain from a Bahraini resolution at the UN calling for the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened, they vetoed it. Fu Kong, Chinese UN ambassador, voiced this new assertiveness. He said that the whole world had heard what Trump had said about wanting to destroy an entire civilization in Iran and dismissed the resolution contemptuously. Trump's musings about wiping out civilizations go down particularly badly in China, which considers itself another civilization. So all eyes are now on Vance and the talks that are set to take place with Iran in Islamabad. Hezbollah, which has found new strength, has said it will not allow Israel to carry on with its airstrikes without replying to them. Iran is more than prepared to go back to war. It's decision time, Mr. Trump.